Thank you for joining us. We are in unprecedented times with COVID-19, and it's impacted every segment of our home building business. Short term, how do we do today's tasks? What are we doing tomorrow? And then it's also had an impact on the longer term, and that is the topic of today's presentation. We have three of the preeminent thought leaders in our business that are looking over the hood of the car and saying, what are things going to be tomorrow? Here at Shea Homes, we're looking at, how are we getting things done, planning for this afternoon, tomorrow, next week. And we rely on these great talented folks to say, okay, 2021, building new communities, designing new communities, what are those going to look like? So I'm excited to hear your input. First, we have Dawn Davidson with Design Line Interiors, located here in San Diego, with donuts and junk behind her. Explain that, Dawn.
Well, you hear that saying during the pandemic, you're going to become a hunk or a drunk or a chunk. So I figured I'm going to become a chunk because I like donuts, and then I'm going to be hoarding like a drunk.
Perfect. And then we have Molly Carmichael with Myers Group, Myers Research, Metro Study, Zonda, et cetera, et cetera.
The list, right.
A lot of stuff. Anyway, Molly is a great talent in our industry of looking at research, trends, what are things going to look like inside the home in the future, and what are communities going to look like in the future. And then lastly, we've got Mike Woodley with Woodley Architecture, located in Denver, Colorado, offices in Orange County. And actually all three of you work coast to coast, but Mike, I know you're working on the East Coast, Central States, Texas, California, and all three of you are great talents. And I know people like myself, home builders, rely on you for your vision, your support, and your ideas and insight of how we make our communities the absolute best that we can. So with that, let's get into what we see for the future. I'm going to start off with a simple question. We've been in lockdown, not so much for you, Mike, in Denver, but for California, I think it's 8 or 9 weeks. And we've lived in our homes, we've slowly ventured out and stuff. But I ask, what have you seen in your house? What have you really appreciated? And when do you look at and go, probably didn't need to design that in a house? Dawn, why don't you start?
Well, I'm fortunate because there's a lot of things in my house that have helped in this situation. One thing I probably could do without is an in-wall coffee maker. They're just not that necessary. Just a regular pot of coffee, simple, clean, easy. That's it.
Sounds like a first world problem there.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
I know. I
didn't have that problem yet.
In my house.
Hey, Molly, how about you? I've seen you in a couple of webinars, and you actually have an Airstream in your driveway that serves as an office. Seems to work great. But what have you seen in home design in your house specifically that you've grown to love and maybe went, probably didn't need to design that into a house?
It's really funny. So I'd say the biggest challenge that I've heard from consumers, everybody, is just we've built these big open floor plans. And so my office is in an open, kind of unclosed, what I'd call office meets family room. And the privacy factor is such a big deal, right? So we have this Airstream that all of us literally have to take a number to get in to use for privacy so we could close the door, whether it's taking tests or homework or you name it. It's been such a huge advantage. I have a pretty small house. There's not really anything in it I would design out. I am just looking around. I don't think my house has ever felt so small as it is in the last 2 months. So it's probably things I would like to add, not necessarily remove. So
Me too. Same, Molly.
yeah.
Hey, Mike, how about you?
I think a lot of the same things. The one thing that I'm really thankful for is that we have 2 offices. And so my wife is able to work at the same time I am, and we're not all over each other. But I realize our dogs are flipping noisy, and they're always the worst time they start barking. And so I realized that got to figure out a better solution to that, because that's just the most painful thing. But the two offices have been key, and I'm really noisy and messy, and so she didn't want to be in the same office. And I always thought we could share an office, and now I'm glad we don't.
Yeah. Bill and I share an office, and he is either in the closet doing his Zoom meetings and I'm in the office, or I'm in my closet doing my Zoom meetings and he's in the office. So the closet.
I've seen some of those calls, and I've had a call with him, and I wondered where the heck he was. And he said, I'm in the closet because Don has the.
That's hilarious. But that's one of the big trends that I think is going to happen, is just not just the office, but I call them sort of Zoom rooms, and those small spaces that can serve as a multi-function, whether it's doing homework, you know, doing these virtual meetings. I think that's going to be post COVID-19 as well.
Definitely with doors too. I don't think
Right.
that
Oh, for sure.
it's got to have doors.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Dividing and providing privacy is probably the biggest thing I've learned in my own home that's just needed during times like this, or frankly, just having 4 people under one very small room.
Mm-hmm.
So two kind of experiences that we've had recently. The one thing that's been really refreshing is that we do custom homes, and the custom home buyers don't seem to be pausing. They're want to move. In fact, they see this as an opportunity now to get their houses built less expensive. So we've been
Good luck with that.
Yeah, we've been still working on stuff. And just yesterday, we had somebody in our office, and we had designed the house for her. She's retired, and it was just going to be for her. And you know, when we first started talking about the programming, and this was before everything happened, and there was no office plan, because she goes, I'm just on my laptop in my living room. I don't need an office. I don't need that. Well, yesterday we added an office to her house, because now suddenly after this, and she needs a place to go. She can't just be out in the open. So I do think it's going to have some long-term effects. And the other one, we have another house that we're doing, and it was for a single guy. And I said, do you want to try to do something with a fitness area? And he said, no, I go to the gym. I don't need a fitness area. I like going to the gym. What do you know? We're adding a gym to his house.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Don, are you seeing any of that in people's desires as far as the decoration of their merchandising of their model homes?
Absolutely. Well, it's trending now. Like Mike said, we're just now getting into it. And as product develops further during this crisis, we will start adding that. But like Mike, with a few of my residential clients, one office has become 2. They're all doing back kitchens because they want more refrigeration space, more storage, more freezer space. And I'm seeing, you know, the 2 definitely more privatized bedrooms, so that people can go, certainly, and because so many kids have moved back home, people, you know, they can go to their room with their bathroom, and it's away from everybody else. And so,
By the way, Don, you have 7 people living with you and 4 dogs?
yeah, pretty much so. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. Breakfast, morning, noon, and night.
Good for you for doing it.
Or, you know, food, morning, noon, and night, and Zoom calls in between.
That's why you have donuts behind you.
Yeah. And by the way, 2 dishwashers, I would give anything in the world to have 2 dishwashers. And so I really think that the practicality of living in a home will be changing, because I don't see people dining out a lot in our future. I think maybe on occasion. So cooking at home and having the extra space in your kitchen to lay out buffets and have double dishwashers, and a lot of people do that. And then trash storage, like when Mike designs houses, I'm sure the trash situation is just crazy right now because of cooking. And so having more storage where the trash can isn't in the garage, maybe there's a dedicated area for that to the side of the house. Just little funny things that I never really paid a lot of attention to.
Well, if you guys are like us, we seem to have a sky bridge to Amazon. So
Yep.
Amazon guys
Oh, totally.
probably once a day. Mike,
Yeah,
have you
nobody
started
buys
thinking,
it now. Sad.
Yes.
Mike, have you started thinking what that would look like in new home design?
Well, it's interesting. I think what this whole thing has done is accelerate trends that we kind of saw starting to emerge. And we had, you know, did a couple communities where we were creating Amazon drop areas. But it was not everybody, and it was going to, oh, kind of a cool little thing. I think it's just going to be commonplace that people have to have a place to have things set somewhere. Because one is that things get stolen, two, but they just want a place for it, you know? And so I think it's going to be part of just standard design that we have a place to leave packages and also, and I just got some other stuff I can share with you as we move along, but how people are layering their houses differently in terms of privacy, even from the outside, because you don't want that Amazon guy too close to you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And, you
So
know,
there's-
just the thing that I find amazing is the Amazon situation. We're so dependent upon it. But, you know, you hear all these things on the news, oh, boxes carry the virus for longer. And, you know, we're going to have viruses, you know, like this probably for a very long time. And right now what we do is we have this big tub, Amazon box gets put into this tub. Then we have the spray bleach. We spray it down and let it dry out for a while. And then we open it. I mean, we're sort of paranoid. Then we open it and then we spray that off. And then, you know, then when we open up the package, we spray, if we can, that off too. So, you know, somewhere along the line, receiving boxes, I mean, Amazon should actually just give everyone who buys from them an infrared, you know, bacterial killer machine and just slide it in that deal.
That might be next. Molly, how about yourself? What is you're looking at data, so
yeah.
what are people telling you?
So it's interesting. And so we've done a bunch of interviews now that we're in COVID-19 to kind of talk about spaces and all of that stuff. And I'll tell you the biggest one, I think more than ever, and this points to everybody on this call, is home's probably never been more important. I mean, I don't think we can point to any point in history where it's ever been this important. Technology obviously is about time. I do think that multi-generational, or at least doubling up of households, much like what Dawn is saying, I think we're going to see more doubling up in the future. And so we've got to think through how that might play out. We've got health and wellness features I think are going to be bigger than ever. So things like, we were talking about this yesterday, like air filtration, water filtration, not just in the sink, but the whole house. The idea of not just home office for, you know, 2 home offices, but fitness room, media room, just the division of being able to close off sound to have 4 people, because nobody watches, well, and we literally, our movie night as a family, will call it and say that 1 hour we're together, all those other hours, everyone's watching TV like in their own corner now because you can, and with all those spaces. So we've got to figure out how to create privacy. And then just other factors like, you know, the whole sales platform, how do we make that comfortable and yet familiar for the sales teams out there that have been selling, but for the consumer to make it convenient and easy. And we're going to do kind of a whole thing on that. And then, you know, just, I would say, I would question, and I'd love to hear from all of you on this, is when and where will the open floor plan still be the way to go? Or will we see the need for more privacy, security? Will we see any shrinking of windows and glass? Will we see more division of space versus, you know, so I really think it's going to impact design, at least for the near term.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be interesting to see some of the evolution. So those are some of the big ones that I think.
We were talking the other day in one of our calls, and we were maybe, Molly, I don't know if you were in it or not, but Mike and Paul and I were, and we were talking about how in some countries, there is no front yard setback. There's just a big wall and there's a beautiful door, like San Miguel de Allende. You know, you walk along the sidewalk, you see different doors, and the home's personality is that door, and you can't see anything behind it. They're extra tall. And I just thought, I wonder if the jurisdictional decisions made by cities and counties and planners, if they will ever start considering that so that you can actually, you know, have that wall of privacy, but you can still have your personality, and you don't, you know, because the day of the front, you know, optional office that the French doors open to the front yard, I think are gone. How will anybody want that ever again?
You know, I actually think that's a good point. I think we will see more of that. I don't want to call it and I actually see it a lot in neighborhoods today where they're building up either hedges or fences to create that front courtyard, to create more privacy just for the home. Even you know, in some of the older neighborhoods, we're definitely seeing more of that. I don't want to call it a fortress or anything like that, but it's definitely sort of closing off the front yard, just not the backyard. So creating more privacy in some of those outdoor private spaces.
Mike, you just designed 2 communities, I believe, in Palm Springs. It kind of follow
Right.
that aesthetic, and it's creating that private spaces behind a wall. And not, they're very attractive, but it gives that sense of you've gone into your own domain and you feel more private and more secure in that area.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting phenomena because we've sort of gone through this new urbanism idea where everybody's in theory sitting on their front porch and facing the street and life on the street. And I think it's in conflict with the way that some people want to live and really now how people want to live. It's clearly a big conflict. And we did this project in Palm Springs, and I have some imagery. So if you want to pull it up, I can kind of refer to it. But we did this pre-COVID, and the idea of this project is to create an internal area. I don't know, hopefully everyone can see the screen there. Maybe you can get a little bigger, zoom in on it. I don't know if we can. But the idea of this is that each one of these, I got to put my glasses on to see it. Each one of these.
Display settings, you can just do swap screens and that will blow up.
Do what now? I think Zoe has this, so if she can pull.
Okay. Yeah, if you hit display settings, you can actually change that and blow that up. Upper left-hand corner.
All right.
Mike, we can see
Okay,
it.
we can see it.
Yeah, all right. Anyways, so these kind of areas here, you see these pools that you can, every yard is super private. And so we designed it so they're zero lot line or act like zero lot line. And the street itself is very private. Go to the next slide and you can see how that looks. So these houses are very close to the street, and they do create that wall. We do have some windows you can see on the next slide here.
There you go. Top one up. Up, the one above, sorry. Swap presenter.
Oh. There we go.
Technical difficulties.
I know.
It's gone. I don't see it. Oh, there it is.
Mike, you still driving?
Yeah.
It'll
All
come
right,
back. There
so,
she goes.
perfect.
Yay! Good job.
Yeah. So you can see the houses become the wall, and this is a great example here where there's the door. So you don't want the UPS guy or the Amazon guy getting past here, right? That's where they stop.
Right.
We have a little window on the street, but behind this is where people want to live. And so when you say, do you want to get rid of glass? I'd say the answer is maybe on the front, but on the inside, no. Go to the next shot. I think it shows kind of, this was kind of our concept drawings of this is private. So everybody's looking into this court. Now they're built and executed. Go to the next one.
That's terrific, Mike. That looks great.
And this is what we got. And this happens to be on the end, but a house there that's a zero lot line, and then the house wraps around this. And so it's really kind of a little of a mid-century modern idea where everything's focused internally, but I think it speaks to what everyone was, the way they want to live today. It's not like they want to be, in this little closed air house with no windows, but they just want it to be focused on their private. And it is in conflict with this new urbanism idea where people want to be out on the street. So I think there's something to this idea. I think there might be one more shot. Yeah, so that's the idea. That's where you kind of come in right here. You walk in here to the house, and then this is that little courtyard space, totally private, that we've created internally on here. So these are 5,000 square foot lots. So nothing special here, really. 50 by 100 foot lots that we created this private yard. There's no backyard. This is the only yard.
Huh.
So I think it speaks to what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Oh, Mike, did you want to comment on this too?
We can go back to this one. Keep talking. I'll come back because this is sort of the ADU discussion that I think, so we can put everyone back. And when we get to that, I can tell you what we've been doing with that. There we go.
We worked on a project a while back. It was actually a high rise, and it had a double door entry. So you would walk in the first lockable door, and this could apply to single family homes and attached homes, etc. But it was basically an area you walk in the first door, and then you can leave a package, or you can, you can leave letters, whatever it is, or, and then there's the main door, and you, that's keyed as well. So that if somebody, and so you can fob the front door, so you can give them a code, whether it's Amazon or whatever, so it locks behind, so it's a holding spot. I saw a home that I walked through not too long ago before COVID, and I look back at that house and I think, oh my God, that's the perfect place for this. And what it had is almost like in your photograph, it had a front tower, but again, it had, and it had a side entry. So it had a front tower, you walk through the first door, and then you walk into a tower, and then there's a second door that dumps you into a courtyard. And again, the tower or vestibule area there was large enough for Amazon packages, people to stand there and wait to get to, ring the doorbell or whatever it is. But it's almost like a vestibule to the home that is, that prevents that, that helps with that safety.
Almost their own private, like a private lobby almost. We
Yeah.
actually designed something with your team, Paul, in Vegas, very similar to what Mike did. And what we did is for Trilogy, we reversed it. So you'd have that great courtyard on the front of the home, much like the postmodern in that you'll see in Palm Springs. But then we reversed it on the home next to it to put it in the backyard. So if you switched it every other time, but still had the full wall on both conditions, the yard behind it never really impacted the privacy either. So together you had that great look that Mike had and all the glass faced onto that outdoor space, but yet you had the privacy with a locked gate or a gate with access remotely. But I really see a lot more of that kind of stuff trending and people wanting that for sure more. I think we'll see more of that in the future for sure.
Yeah.
It's all about the price, right? And there's a number of ways to accomplish it. But the idea of, this front people on the front porch where everyone's going to gather and, share lemonade, I think is gone. It's just not going to be the case. And people are going to want to be, it's sad to a certain extent, but I think there's some truth to it that we're just more careful. We're going to be more careful, and we want to be private. We want to know who's around us and that we know that it's okay. And so I think we're going to create these more private spaces. And Don referenced these other countries that have walls around their houses. There may be another reason for that.
Yeah, there it is.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing out from a statistical number, it's the older population, the 55 plus, when they go to retire, they probably are still the most likely to want to live to the front of their home. They're the most likely to want to know what their neighbors are doing, and they're the most likely to want to actually still kind of meet and play. But that tends to be in a community that is, I would say, kind of away from it all and protected in and of itself. So, so just food for thought on that one. I do think they still trying to.
Yeah, there's kind of a layering of security there.
Right.
Question for you.
Right.
Do you see the front entry mudroom coming back as kind of a place where you shed the wares of being outside and you go into the house from there?
I think a formal entry or a vestibule coming into the home is going to be more important because that protects the privacy into the home.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
I still think the mudroom will probably be next to the garage. And then the formal vestibule entry would be on its own for guests and Amazon deliveries, etc. Because I think, first impressions always matter. And in the event that we cluttered up in any way, besides the Amazon boxes, those front entry vestibules, that's your first sight and first impressions.
I've also
we talked about.
You're still going to matter.
It's also a place for consumers, and this literally came up in some of our interviews. I just want a place where I can drop my clothes or those boxes that I do have to clean off, but I don't want to bring them into the main house because of just the concern for bringing that into the house, which I found actually interesting. I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, and the other
no
thing
one would have.
What I was thinking about is what Amazon has become quite the conversation today, but I was actually thinking because we get so many boxes and we have to break down those boxes. So we receive the boxes at the front door or at, you know, the garage, wherever they leave it. Then we have to go through the protocol of how we open it safely. Then we have to break the darn thing down. And then we have to take it and carry it all the way to where the trash can is in order to put it away. So there's got to be, and maybe Mike, when you're beginning to design these houses, is have, like, say for example, there is that entry vestibule. Maybe there's a slot above the shelf that the boxes get flattened out and they go through and they dump into a can of trash or a box.
Yeah.
Shipping and receiving,
Factor.
right off the laundry room.
Thinking about how we are going to live in the future. And that would be Amazon and boxes are something totally different. It doesn't even matter if we have COVID or not. It's still, it's a pain in the rear, but it saves us time.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
Let's talk a little bit more about communities. We've been all probably explored our communities, walking around, walking the dogs 5 times a day, getting out and about. What have you grown? What have you noticed? What have you seen? What have you appreciated in your community just walking around? We've talked about maybe bringing security forward, but what other aspects of it have you seen?
You know, so this is kind of interesting. I believe that, you know, there's been this desire to be close in and urban. And I think there's going to be some pushback on that. I think there's going to be more people that find space is become more important and having some room. And I mean, on a personal note, I have my daughter, you know, and her husband got married. They wanted to live downtown. So they bought a townhouse down there. And then all of a sudden they came to me and they said, you know, we're thinking we want to buy a house. We're sick of cigarette butts out in front of our townhouse and homeless people nearby. And the coolness of being able to go to bars quickly and restaurants and all that is worn off. And I think, like I said earlier, I think that the trends are going to be accelerated with this. And I think that is a trend where this love affair with being around people in tight spaces and don't need much room in my house and I can just get out and I'll be, you know, go to a restaurant. I don't need a kitchen, big kitchen. I think all that is being changed right now.
When two things are happening right now too. It's the concern for, is this the first virus that happened, and could this be now something that happens again? And so being so close in an urban city, we have the numbers to actually prove in the last month, you can see it on Google Trends, the number of the people that are looking to exit and look for homes outside these urban centers. The trends are phenomenal. So you're absolutely right on that. And then secondly, I would tell you my answer in the community that I live in is, I've never seen so many people walking their dogs in my entire life.
Yeah, they're dragging their dogs.
well, and you know, what's so interesting, as human beings, our heart and our mind says, when you walk by and you see a neighbor and they're walking their dog or they're walking with their child or husband, you just want to go up and pet the dog and hug the person and say hello. And I was walking my dog the other day, and a neighbor I don't really know that well, but I know him well enough. He literally came up, and he's past 70, and he came up and he just started to hug me. And I'm like, oh my God, how do I tell him this is not social distancing? How to do that.
You know, do this.
Yeah, his wife runs over and she starts petting my dog. I'm like, oh, okay, we're breaking rules here. But you know, Mike, I have a question for you. It's kind of as far as when you're talking about urban planning and what you're going to see going forward. Do you see, when it comes to density and developing in a dense area near town where people can walk, do you see flats being more likable or townhouses? Have you given that any thought?
Yeah, I personally don't see sort of like, I mean, I think it all depends on who it is, and I think that's not going to change. You know, 3-story towns or 4-story towns with roof decks. I mean, unless you put elevators on them, you're eliminating who's going to buy those. But in terms of what the reaction to what's happening here with the COVID is, it's clearly going to be about privacy and feeling safe. And so I think as you design this higher density stuff, whether it is a townhouse or a flat, it's all about feeling safe and feeling that you have privacy. You can sit on your your balcony and not literally be 6 feet away from someone, or if you are, that you're actually safe from them or away from them. So I think that's the key. We're doing a lot of roof decks, roof terraces, and we're always careful to set those up so when you're sitting on that roof terrace, you're not like literally right next to somebody. And I think that's going to even become more important. It's always kind of important because it never feels great to be on those roof decks and be right next to somebody. But now it's even more important. And so we're going to have to really be careful how we do density and privacy, that where we are not as worried about it is going to become paramount now. That's going to be a design driver, is that we have to have density that still gives somebody that really sense of security and space.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're gonna have to create those private spaces. Go ahead, Molly.
I can address the numbers on that real quickly. So there's 3 layers to that. One, what it means for HOA. 2, if somebody's living above or below you. And then 3, just realistically, what's mine and what's in the condo association. So across the board, flats tend to sell for less because they don't like the idea of someone living above or below them. But the other part that happens with flats is they tend to have a higher HOA. So just think, for every $100 a month, that's $20,000 in home price. So that also has an impact to it as well. And then last but not least, it's just the privacy factor. As Mike and everybody has been saying, the number one reason people want private outdoor space or outdoor space period is it's all about privacy first, then entertainment. We all think it's entertainment first, but it's about privacy. And that townhome makes it feel like, hey, these walls are mine, and this is my private space. And even how those walls abut, I'm sure, Mike, as you know, and Paul, everybody, what those walls abut to is also pretty darn crucial too. So just for the number side of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so back to that, Molly, and Mike, is there any sort of, like, how many podium products are going up right now, which means that you're all parking in the same spot and getting out and getting into the same elevator. So do you feel that's going to be affected?
Well, the last part I forgot to hit on the whole flats versus townhomes is there's a premium related to service and what comes with that whole benefit of going to a podium product. So when you get the doorman and the Amazon drop zone that's taking care for you, and you've got a state-of-the-art fitness and coordinated events and the rooftop deck with the pool overlooking, the bay, all those things obviously incrementally add value and have to be taken into consideration, but they also incrementally add value cost to the HOA. So, I mean, some of the lower costs on these mid-rise, high-rises are anywhere from $600 to $1,200 a month. That's a lot.
It's interesting because that adds security, but then other aspect, it can reduce your personal space security.
That's right.
So it's a balance between those two. Dawn, if you look forward, you hear all this. How do you merchandise a house in 2021 to address people's security concerns and health concerns?
Well, I think the specifications to begin with are going to be important. I know that, well, first of all, I think that, and this sounds so gross, but hopefully the price will come down, but automatic flush toilets and automatic seats that come up are, I think, are anything that you have to touch something that other people in your home or your guests are touching. We need to just think about let's not have to flush the toilet. Let's look at faucets that come on by motion. Even, walking into a room, rather than flipping a switch, have the lights come on automatically. I think, if this continues, and say we have a second bout of it in, the fall or next fall or whenever, it's even scary when your family is at home, because no one can stay at home 100% of the time. You have to go to the grocery store. And so then you go home, you go to the bathroom, you wash your hands, or you go to the kitchen. And I really think, like kitchen cabinet knobs, I think we need touch latch and another way, not to just have all these things that we tactically use in order to make something happen. And I know that's redesign of, potentially appliances, cabinets, looking at it differently, faucets. But I have as far as safety and all of that, I think that's important. And the privatization of bedroom suites, I think, is going to be really important. And, I'm going back to the way, like Mike, your product that you just built, it was contemporary, but I swear to goodness, courtyards we live in a courtyard house, and I'm so grateful and thankful to live in a courtyard house because we're all there and we're safe. We don't feel like, I just love courtyard houses, which is what you just showed us, Mike, in a contemporary version. So, I think, safe rooms are going to become important as well, where you can literally, there's a small room you can go into in the event that the world gets really crazy during these times. And they don't have to be big, they just need to be small. And
That's
I don't
trending up on Google too. Safe rooms and guns.
yeah.
Hopefully not.
Bill's afraid I might accidentally shoot him if I get mad at him, so we can't have
Yeah. But I think that kind of goes back to when you see that stuff trending up. That's why I asked the question, will we see windows shrink? Will we see more privacy really commanded and demanded in all parts of our home? When you start to see that, how do we again come back to a really cozy but comfortable nest, but still light and bright is something people want. And Mike, your solution was fantastic for that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mike, question for you. For a visitor to access the courtyard, do they have to go through the home, or is there a way for them to visit folks so they don't have to go into the private space and can immediately on the side of the house or something get into that courtyard?
Well, the project I showed, it was part of the entry sequence. So the front door was after you went to the courtyard. But the idea is you put that front door as a gate or a door out in front. And so you stop people there. And so people that get in the courtyard are only those you want or yourself. But there's no reason why the courtyard couldn't be after the front door and internal. I don't know how your house is set up, Dawn, but oftentimes courtyards don't happen until after you enter the house and then go to the courtyard. So it could go either way.
That's how ours is. Ours is a completely privatized. You have to get into the house in order. There's no access from the courtyard to the exterior. But I mean, I think you could possibly. I think it could work. I just love the double door system now. We don't have that, and I wish we did. But that whole double door system, I think, is going to be a big deal in product design coming up.
So you've got this sequencing.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mike.
We have that set up at our own house where we have an entry door that comes into a courtyard, and then our door is beyond. And a friend of ours was out walking and rang our doorbell. And this was like right when it was really starting to get kind of scary. And we said, you know what, we're not going to answer the door and just, let it go, because we have a camera. We could see that they were there. And we said, no, we're just not going to answer it. Well, come to find out, we found out 2 days later, her daughter had COVID. And so she got it, and they were at our front door, but they didn't get past our gate. So that idea of that gate is that extra protection. So, and the one thing I think is important to say, we're talking about all this stuff and what is the new house going to be like? I still think, and I'm feeling some hope, okay? I don't want to be all down or like, hey, we're into this terrible thing, because in Colorado, we're starting to kind of open up a little bit. I played golf this morning and it felt pretty normal. I just sort of feel like that life is somewhat returning here a bit. And I think when we're all said and done, there's going to be some influences to this, but I don't think that, that we're, it's going to be terrible. I think I'm still hopeful. I do think
Totally.
Yeah, Mike, absolutely. I think there's going to be nuggets of design sequencing that we experienced in this that are going to probably transition and continue. But yeah, I think we're all super hopeful.
Yeah, and maybe too that maybe, form and function, for example, we go through these stages in design and building where form is much more important than function. And then we go where function is everything. And, we've been in the form phase for a lot of years now. Maybe just adding some of that function and that sensitivity to everyday life that we've learned from this is what we will need. Just having a bigger balance between form and function.
Well, and one of the things I think that all of you are very good at is doing both, because I think it's always about both. And consumers are, and we can again show the numbers for this, they're moving to smaller footages. And I don't believe that's just about affordability. I think they just want smarter space, and I call it smart sizing. And I just think smart sizing, and that includes form and function, is, you know, COVID-19 or not, has been and will be the trend for the future.
Sorry, I just realized my battery's going
Like,
dead.
what's going on there, Mike? I was like,
Yeah, Mike, what are you doing there?
You wore pants today.
I'm like,
Not on those news
am I
anchors.
is he changing his belts or what's going on there?
My battery's going dead, and
The IE department's coming in.
Yes.
Hey, Molly, you had mentioned compartmentalizing of houses.
Yes.
You know, well, the big, great rooms, and we kind of brushed by that, but we'll let Michael finish up with his IT experience there.
Sorry.
John, what are you
Sorry.
thinking?
No problem. No, you're good, Mike.
I got to just move it a little bit here.
Don, do you think we're going to compartmentalize a little bit more?
You know, I don't think I think definitely offices and maybe bedrooms become more private with more space between one bedroom and the next bedroom. Like rather than walking down a hall, there's a door to one and across it is a door to another. Maybe we spread the bedrooms out a little bit. But the great room and the big kitchen, I think, is here to stay, because that's how you are with family. That's how you play games. I mean, I've never played so much Jenga, you know, that Jenga game.
Yeah.
Love that.
Well,
And we've been playing backgammon and you know, with, it's actually 9 people in the house and 4 dogs. So, you know, we spend so much time in our great room and kitchen. So I think it's here to stay. It's just natural for us to be, even if we're just with our family, we are still very social and loving and heartfelt human beings that need each other. So
Let me ask you this. If you could keep it open, but you had sort of, I'm going to use like the dividing glass doors that are functional, that you can close when you want to close it and keep it open when you want to open it, would that work in your family, so that you kind of have the choices if you wanted to have what I would call noise or privacy barriers at times? It's less about not seeing them, but being able to create spaces that can be used, you know, multifunctionally, if that's at all a
I
word.
think absolutely, certainly with interior pocket doors.
Yeah.
And, you know, double pocket doors into an office. You know, you can open it when you're at home alone, or it's just a few of you, and you can close it when there's too many people in the house. I think family rooms in their relationship to kitchens, I don't know if you would really want to close that off, but we could, you know, it could be considered. Right. But
I think we're from like living room to family kitchen room, or whatever that one space is at the front of the home. I usually call it a personality space, not a living room. So if it's your dining room or your office or whatever, is there an opportunity to provide a functional dividing space so that when I want that to be private, it can be private, but when I want it to join with the family kitchen area, it's, you know, so you're
that's
sort of,
that's a great idea. That's a good idea, Molly. Like, say, for example, in a dining room, because my dining room table is used as, it's actually an office for my daughter's fiance. And so, and it's separate. Our dining room is separate. So he's there, and it'd be so cool just to have doors, because sometimes he has Zoom calls and he needs privacy, just to close that off. So it might be, you know, the use of pocket doors or pack away doors on the interior might become more popular.
and my thought is the door is not necessarily like the typical double doors going into the office, but it might be on sort of that walkway into the family room kitchen area, which you guys know what I'm talking about. It's really the pocket doors come off of the division of that zone versus this zone. And could you create that as like, you can create zones in the house when you want them, and they disappear when you don't?
Yes, I think that's fantastic.
they're very applicable.
Sorry about that. I had a
Oh, we
little
love it.
technical problem.
You did great.
What's life today?
But just to kind of carry on those thoughts, because I don't think things are going to be compartmentalized. And you said it, Don, when you said, oh, we've taken our dining room and turned into an office. When we think about compartmentalized houses, I mean, there was a time when we were doing formal dining rooms and then informal eating areas. There was not too long ago in our lifetime, there were formal living rooms, right?
Right.
And I don't think those are coming back, but I do think that we're needing to create other spaces. And so we have been kind of like thinking that the loft idea of having a loft, kids loft, it's kind of going away because everybody's in their bedroom on their iPads. And I think that may still be around because I think we need another place to watch TV, bottom line. And I think that loft does that. It gives the kids a place to go away. When it used to be the formal living room and the family room would be two functions, and then we realized we never used the living room. So now what we've done is create two informal living rooms. In a two-story house, it's, you know, the loft and then downstairs is the great room or living area. In a single story, it may mean a teen room on a wing that is for the kids. And then the big great room, which is open to the kitchen. So I don't think we're going to kind of compartmentalize things. I do think we need to find more places for offices. Because you have 7 people at your house, you need a lot more offices.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, Mike,
done.
you know,
You
I'm
need a
working-
building.
yeah, Mike, I'm actually working on a project with you, and the loft that is, you know, optional bedroom, whatever, but people typically do it as a loft. You know, we trended for such a long time with a sectional TV, a game room, whatever. But in the very beginning, when they first came about, they were study areas, right? And so then it said, well, people study in their room, they're all on laptops, they study at school, whatever. We were just asked recently to make it a kids homeschooling area. So it's an office for 2
That's cool.
and because they have to homeschool, and they wanted it closed off, so it's not open to the staircase. It's just an area for the kids that can be quiet, it can have all that they need, and for homeschooling.
So I'm gonna throw out some of the stats. I'll be the voice of the consumer. So 45% of consumers nationally want a great room plus one formal space. So I agree the living room goes away, but they still want one formal space. 39% just want a great room, and only 17% want formal layout. So I agree that goes away. And think of formal spaces as sort of like privileged spaces. If you can afford it and it's the last thing you add in, you can do it. And then on the office, the least preferred office actually was loft. And I'll tell you why it was least preferred, especially for that younger group. And we're starting to see the consumers be a bigger group. Today, obviously tweeners are sort of growing in size, but long story short, their kids want to play with their keyboards, and they've got to create some barriers, right, to be able to close the door. The 46 plus group is more likely to have open spaces in office, and the younger group is the most likely to want the door because of kids. So just think for that.
Hey, we're down to 10 minutes, so I'm going to open it up for Q&A. And actually, I've got the first question. You've been working from home, probably going to the office once in a while. How dependent are you going to be in your traditional office moving forward? Or have you made the transition to go, God, it kind of works working from home part of the time? Don, why don't you go first?
Wow, that's a good question. I think in my particular business, it's a little difficult because we have to touch and feel, and it's hard to pick paint colors over online, and even tiles, and blend those with carpets. And so all the visual things as a designer, I think is interesting. But I have had some nice thoughts. In fact, Paul, I talked to you about it not too long ago, but like if there were more, you know, these creative office spaces where people could work from home, but then they could meet on certain days, and it's a shared creative. So you team up with the same type of people. Like say, Paul, there was room in your building and we moved in and we shared your design center. And then we go off to our little office, but we have very few offices because most of the time people will work from home. And you know, it'll be interesting how it evolves, because I definitely think it will evolve, because just the commute time, you know, I live about 8 miles from my office, and it sometimes takes me an hour to get there, an hour to get home. And with, you know, so I mean, not today because there's no one on the streets, but I do think that we need to think about our well-being and how we can still have offices where we can collaborate, because that's so important, and we can touch and feel. But maybe it's not like how we're doing it now. Like this is like compartmentalization. Paul, your office is here. Mike, your office is here. Molly, your office is there. Maybe there's a way that like kinds of businesses can be together and share.
Good
So.
point. Molly, how about you? You're all over the place, but has your team kind of rethought the traditional go to the office every morning?
No, we have a really mobile team as it stands even pre-COVID. So,
Yeah.
I'm all over. And so my office is where the business is. I don't know about all of you, but I just really miss people. I can't wait to be in the office with the team and all of that. So that is, I think, a thing that people are going to be craving. I know for certain, though, they're going to make sure that, with all the COVID stuff, that there'll be more distancing of those spaces. And so there's going to be some reconfiguration of that, at least in the near term. But
Mike, how about you?
business as usual for me.
So I actually have been I'm in my office right now. I've been in the office most of the time. But there's not our whole staff is coming in. In Colorado, we said it's up to you guys because we can come in.
Yeah.
And not everybody comes in. And we've been able to work through. I mean, I've gotten really good at this Zoom and drawing on the iPad, but I still like to get us together. And like Don said, we collaborate, and it's harder to do it, on a Zoom call. And let's try this and let's sketch this and what do we think? That's hard. Do I think in a general trend? I think that offices are definitely going to be less demand for offices. I'm thinking that we should be thinking about how we're going to turn these office buildings into housing somehow, because
Are you thinking about it?
yeah, I think there's going to be some sitting around, I would hate to think that we would not have our office people coming in. I do think that it's made me more comfortable with the idea of when people say they need to work from home, that they're really working from home versus they're just going to blow me off,
Yeah.
But so I do think I feel better about that. And I also have, interesting enough, I felt like I actually know what everyone's working on more now, because I've made it a point. We've kept everybody on. We haven't laid anybody off, and we're feel pretty good about things going forward. And we've got work, we're working, and now I really know what everyone's working on. Where in the past, I think somebody else was kind of, I didn't have a clue, but now I know what everyone's working on. So it's kind of interesting like that. It's changed that. And we're very sporadic with our kind of meetings. And now it's like, we're on these meetings. We know we have them, and staff meetings. So we know what everyone's doing.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question from someone. ADUs, do you see those more prevalent in the future? Kind of a separate quarters in the yard space?
Hey, Zoe, are you still there? Can you push that next one up? I'll show you what we're working on, because we think they are coming. They're going to be a big
That's a
deal.
question by Scott Sandstrom.
All right, Zoe, are you there? Can you pop it up?
Scott says he wants some of your donuts as well.
You're welcome to come on over. I'll meet you on the street.
Well, Zoe's doesn't
6 feet away.
I'm popping it up right now.
Okay, but we're working on a project in Salt Lake right now with Ivory Homes, and so they are very excited about this ADU. As you know, in California, it's become a big deal. Other states are kind of picking up on it, and so our feeling is that ADUs, kind of seem like, oh, they're the answer for everything, but the reality is they're not one solution for them. And so this is a little bitty infill project in Salt Lake. And it's pretty dense, 14 units per acre is what we're getting on this. And it's, I really like what it's really not one size of ADU meets all. So this is kind of the traditional ADU where you have the garage, the so-called granny flat. And so you have the extra unit back there and then the unit up front. Well, the reality is it's not granny because she's not going up those stairs. So we call it the Fonzie unit because that's who lives back there. So we think that there is definitely some of that. And you can see in this project where we have some of those kind of scattered in. But we also see the multi-gen units. And so we have two different versions of those. And they are completely separate units. And that's really more a place for mom that's has a little bit more dignity to it, all on one level, separate entrance, connected, but she can do her own laundry, do her, have her own kitchen. And so we've mixed those in. So there's some of those. And then there's the classic duplex, if you will. We call them paired homes here. And the idea of this is that that somebody may buy this and then rent out the other one to help kind of make the mortgage payment. So we've tried kind of mixing in this little project here of 25 units, 5 of which are custom homes, which are really across the street from other custom homes, and then the 20 inside here. So at 14 units per acre, we've got a variety of ADU units. So we're pretty excited about this idea.
Yeah, that's neat. You got a lot of footage too
Yeah.
on a couple of the units.
So I don't know, that I had that in case that came up. So I'm glad someone asked the
Okay.
question.
That looks great.
Thanks, Scott Sandstrom. Well, everyone, we've got 2 minutes, real quick, just last words of wisdom. Don, you first, 30 seconds or less.
Last words of wisdom. I'm sorry that we couldn't get to more questions, everyone, but please feel free to email any of us. Last words of wisdom. I think mine would be that there's always a silver lining to every experience that might be uncomfortable or sometimes even devastating. And just, find those silver linings in your own life. Mine has been my dog, our dogs, my family, and not being on the road all the time, not traveling all the time. There's a lot of silver linings that I am so grateful for right now. So that's it.
Molly, how about yourself?
Gosh,
Great answer, Don.
I would say the same thing. I mean, a time with my family has been invaluable recently. And I would say the second silver lining on, to piggyback off of what Don's saying is, these are the times that innovation is made. I mean, this is the time to really think differently and really push yourself to sharpen all your plans, everything that you're doing, because we will see great innovation, I think, out of this that's, post COVID-19 and on a go forward in all good things. So yeah, there's been some definitely great things coming out of this.
Mike?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I am full of hope because I think things are going to be okay soon. I really do. And I think part of it is that I'm in Colorado and I'm starting to feel it. I'm anxious to get to California, but no one's in our office in California, so I see no point in going there right now. So but I'm anxious to be able to go there and actually have somewhat normal life. I think it will come. I do think we're going to learn a lot from this, and I think it's going to push some things quicker, trends that were going to happen. I think it's going to push them a little bit quicker. It's all going to change some things, but I'm very hopeful, and we're going to be fine. We're getting through this, so I'm feeling good about it. I think we're seeing sales. I just got off the phone with one of our clients in Seattle. They sold 13 homes last week. They're feeling better about things. So
Yeah, it's picking up. It definitely is picking up.
Story. So I'm hopeful.
What about you, Paul, since you've been asking all the questions?
Oh, I don't think we'll ever get out of this mess. No, I'm totally optimistic. I think some great things are going to happen, not only the design side, but cities, everyone's rethinking. And I think it's going to cause people to be less adversarial and hopefully pull on the same side of the rope and get stuff done instead of clutching pearls saying we can't make decisions. So I think good things are going to come from this.
Are you seeing positive sales as of recent, Paul? Anything different in the sales field or?
We're doing a lot of new things, a lot of innovative things on the sales front, and it's great. I mean, it's
That's great.
we're going to be QVC as far as home sales. And so a lot of neat things are happening.
That's awesome.
So, okay, our hour is up. Thank you all for your time. I know it's valuable. I really appreciate your insights, as I'm sure the audience does. And have a great rest of the afternoon.
Thank you, everyone, and all the love and best to you.
Okay, I'm coming over for donuts.
Okay. All right, bye.
Take care.